So let's get into the field, do some field testing and check out all the amazing images what this can produce. Now, one of the things which I really wanted to test with the Alpha 9 Mark III pre-capture was kingfisher in flight. Now, that is something which I've been aiming to get since I got hold of this today morning, and in fact I was successfully able to get it where I really waited. And the main thing which is important is the angle of flight it takes, where all the patterns of the wing, everything is clearly seen. So let's play back and see what we got. So again, from a group point of view, I go into this play and the down button I press and it starts playing. It's like a video. So let's play the whole video once and see how we got it. There you go. It's sitting over there and it flies and yes, it goes down. So that is what I captured. So let's play it once again and stop at the place where we want to start. Okay, let's stop here and start looking at the frame one at a time. So let's zoom in and let's look at each frame at a time. Look at this. So this is what I really love about the pre-capture. Look at the wing patterns of the kingfisher. I have never seen anything like this. Wow. Let's look at this beautiful kingfisher here now. It goes down with the wing pattern. It's beautiful. And the shot which I want, let's see. Yes, the wing spread. And yes, look at each of those shots what I have over here. Oh, wow, look at this. Complete spread. This is a beautiful shot here. And all this 120 frames per second. So you can select which frame you want to basically like process over here. Wow. So this is basically the major thing when it comes to the pre-capture feature of the Alpha 9 Mark III. So set it to 1 second and then you wait, let the action happen, then click. Of course, the key thing you have to remember is basically you have to keep the button pressed, the autofocus button pressed, so that you can capture that particular image even after it flies. That's pre-capture for you. So I am currently waiting here for the purple heron to fly, and it's in the movement, but I'm trying to capture the flight using the pre-capture of the Sony Alpha 9 Mark III. And I set the pre-capture to 1 second. And so the concept here is we need to like keep the focus button on the subject, and I have enabled the bird eye tracking and subject detection. So it's able to detect the subject properly. And I just now have to wait with the focus button pressed, so that like the continuous tracking happens, and the moment it flies away, if I miss the flight, I can still click it within that 1 second and capture the flight. Yeah, purple herons, you never know when it's going to fly. So I'm just keeping it focused on that, waiting for that to fly, and let's see if I'm able to capture it. And the wait was worth it. So the purple heron finally flew, and let's just play back and check what is it that we have got. So I play back, of course the grouping system is on currently. I go in and let's just play the whole sequence once at 120 frames per second and see what is it that I captured. There you go. So played, now it's ready to take off normally, and yes, so it's like a movie at 120 frames per second, it took off. Now let's go in again and stop at the frame where it's going to fly and see every single frame. Okay, let's stop here, or let's go back a few frames. Yes, let's stop from here and see. At 120 frames per second, every individual movement we can capture which is probably not possible when you have lesser frames per second. Let's play frame by frame and see what is it that we captured. The bird ready to fly off. Look at this. I'm just playing back one frame at a second. At 120 frames per second, I've captured it. Wow, look at this. So this is possible because of the pre-capture and the 120 frames per second. And remember, I'm capturing a Sony Alpha 9 Mark III does the pre-capture in complete raw format. Look at each of this frame, one frame at a time. And of course, I wanted a block shot. I did not want to follow the bird. I wanted the bird to just exit my frame. Look at every single frame what I've been able to capture with the water droplet. So I can choose whichever frame I want as a part of this and post it. Wow, look at this. So that's how the pre-capture of the Sony Alpha 9 Mark III works at 120 frames per second in RAW format. Classic. The next subject what I got was the long tail strike. It was perched there, and then like I set my pre-capture to the 1 second as usual raw format, and then I waited for it to fly. Of course, I mean these birds are so super fast. The moment they fly, they just go away, that's it. And in the fraction of a second trying to get that capture is impossible or little very tough. So that is where let's see what the Sony Alpha 9 Mark III's pre-capture what it did. So I just played back the group. I go into the group. So that is where how it was sitting. So let me just play till it flies and then stop at that moment where the movement will start. There you go. So I'm going to stop here and start. Let me just zoom in and let's play one frame at a time. So there you go. It's taking off. This is the magic of 120 frames per second. So let's, of course, I've zoomed in to show you the details. Moving in, this is where it just dived. Let's give it space for it to come down and look at that. This is, so we can choose, each one is a raw frame. Which frame you want, you can choose. Ah, look at the pattern of the wings. Have you ever seen this kind of a pattern of the wings of the long tail strike before? How easy or how difficult do you think was it to capture? With the Alpha 9 Mark III, you can just capture it like this. This is going to be my frame. So I'm going to put this as my frame, crop it, post it. How about this? A totally different kind of a perspective we are getting here. This is also beautiful. So one frame at a second. I love this. Look at this. So this is, I mean, when people ask me like, is 120 frames per second really required for action photography? 15 frames, 20, 30 frames, is it not enough? But there are so many missed frames in a second compared to the 120 frames per second. Look at this beauty. So then I just let it go out of the frame. Oh, one more. Oh, this is good. Isn't that a beauty? I mean, the magic of the pre-capture at 120 frames per second. Now you can decide which frame you want to basically choose and post it. I'm loving this. So the next subject what we have here where I'm going to test the pre-capture with the 120 frames per second is purple moorhens. If we understand the behavioral aspect of the purple moorhens, so they will be feeding like this continuously and at some point they're going to like jump, fly, or one purple moorhen may chase the other purple moorhen, and the water sprinkling out there from the feet, the action what we can expect, that is what I plan to. Okay, it's moving. So generally when it moves like this, it now it's going to like pull a weed. So a lot of chasing happens, fight, all kind of action happens over here. This is the regular place in Bharatpur where the action happens, and waiting to capture that. And I waited and I got the purple moorhens running, the action shots what I wanted, I finally got it. And let's try to play back the images and see. I go in, I just press the down arrow and it plays like a continuous movie because it's being shot at 120 frames per second and each is a frame. Look at this action. So I was able to capture this action, and now let's do the recomposition for the playback and look at this. So each of the frames I am playing, frames captured at 120 frames per second. I'm just playing back and look at this. Wow. So you can freeze and say, okay, this is the frame I want to process. You can just choose this frame. Each is a raw file, as I've been saying. Look, of course, like it's not cropped off from a composition. I've just zoomed in. Otherwise, I do have the full image over here. Look at the action. So, yep. So this whole series I was able to get one frame at a time. Wow, that's a beauty. And as I said, you can choose which frame you want to use for processing. And let's play back and then let's see if we can choose the other group. Oh, wow, look at that. Okay, so let's play back and stop where it jumps, and yes, let's stop here a few frames back, and from here if we start, let's zoom in to see the beauty. And yes, look at this. So if you see this here now, each frame captured at 120 frames per second. What a beauty. Of course, it's not cropped off, as I said. I have zoomed in and look at this. At high shutter speed, you can freeze the action, the water droplets. With each of these kind of frames, what the camera can give, I think action photography for birds, especially even small birds in flight, I think the Sony A9 Mark III is a major game changer when it comes to capturing this action, which probably was very tough using some of the older or some of the other cameras which shoots at a lesser frames per second. Wow, I'm just in wow of these things. Look at the beauty. I love this. So if you have seen some of these images of the darter fishing, like this one, now it came out without a fish. So what the darters do, or the challenge what we face here, is the darters, they go in the water to fish and you have no idea where they're going to pop out. So you have to keep scanning the entire area and see like where they will come out. So as you see, like some of these images where they no, missed it, or rather like it didn't have a fish. So some of these images, if you see, where the darter comes out with a fish, then it tosses it up in the air and then it gulps it. So if you have to shoot that, the technique has to be really good to basically like get the focus on that. So the challenges what you will face in these kind of scenarios is, one is your camera's autofocusing capabilities. Camera has to be really fast to help you get that autofocus. As other than that, the tracking mechanism of your camera has to be really good. So once you get the focusing on the subject, so the camera should be able to focus on it, track it. So now comes the technique. So in my case, the Sony Alpha 9 Mark III is what I'm using here. So in this, what I have chosen is the AF area mode. So the AF area mode is tracking, and Spot XL is what I use. So I want a little bit of extra large size of the autofocusing point. That is what I have chosen. And now comes the main thing. So once you've chosen the autofocusing AF area mode, autofocus continues obviously. The key thing now is the technique which you will have to use to get it. So the concept here is the right eye goes into the viewfinder or rather close to the viewfinder, and the left eye is scanning the area. So if I look to the right side, the whole camera equipment moves to the right. So I leave space more on my left side because my left eye is scanning the entire left side area. So even though the camera focuses more onto the right side, so it keeps moving like this. And the moment the darter comes out from the water, whether it has a fish, it doesn't have a fish, that is the next part. But then the moment the darter comes out of the water, so the right, okay, there you go, so there you go, got it. Of course, I was able to focus on it, but it did not come out with a fish. So keep the eye close, keep scanning the area. The moment the darter comes out anywhere, go in and focus on that. So this technique, and you have to be real fast. There you go. Achieve the autofocus, but again no fish. And it's a waiting game here in Bharatpur, where we wait at these kind of locations for quite a long time to get these kind of images. So let me continue to wait, but this is the technique. Ah, there you go. This guy is going to fly now. Nope, went in. So this is the technique which you have to use to get the darters fishing, coming out with the fish, tossing it up and gulping it. It works every time. The Sony Alpha 9 Mark III, a revolutionary camera for image making, especially with the introduction of the global shutter, the pre-capture at 120 frames per second, and the RAW format. I think this is a game changer when it comes to wildlife photography and even sports photography. So I have been enjoying this camera and enjoying all the flight options, especially the flight images of the birds at the time they take off, which is very difficult to get otherwise, and I have been able to get it with the pre-capture. So this is a camera I would highly recommend for sports action photography, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. So stay tuned for my channel for a lot of other product reviews, photography tips, and of course like everything and anything related to photography. Take care.
Alpha.